The pitfall is the ChatGPT moment, and that's the big trap. That's a mistake I think a lot of large enterprises are making. Large enterprise by design move so slow, like an iceberg, and
Welcome to the Homebase AI podcast. My name is Derek Scannell. I'm one of your co-founders and hosts. We are here today with David Stepania and Benjamin Smokovich. Benjamin, one of the other co-founders of the Homebase AI podcast and business architecture at SAP.
SAP.
Yeah,
Yeah.
is our primary guest today. Yeah. So Ben, welcome.
All right, good to be here, guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been an interesting week.
So Ben, there are a lot of listeners who don't know who you are and don't know what you do. So if you wouldn't mind giving us a quick intro of yourself, your role, and what you do at SAP.
Yeah, Benjamin Smokovich, yeah, and I am a global business architect at SAP. I think, not to toot my own horn, but business architecture is one of the most important roles in a organization, whether it be startup or large enterprise. It is the Steve Jobs of any organization, right? You have to be a visionary. You have to understand what the needs are of the organization, and you have to bring that to life with your vision. And in that role, we try to recruit a lot of peripheral type of roles in people that have different skill sets to kind of bring that vision to life and talk about it and put it on paper and hand that napkin over to IT to build. So that's what I do right now, and more specifically, I'm working on an internal AI project across the entire sales organization. I think we have 40 different use cases that we've captured, and right now we're trying to go from iPod to iPhone, right, at SAP.
And Ben, we started recording, you had some strong opinions about maybe the success or the hype of AI in the large enterprise today. So you just mentioned we're going from the iPod to the iPhone. What are some of the pitfalls or shortcomings you see there? I mean, this is going to be iPhone 1. Battery is going to kind of suck. The touchscreen is going to be iffy. What are some of the big gaps and hurdles that we see that enterprise have to overcome and going from that 0 to 1 moment, really taking off with AI?
The pitfall is the ChatGPT moment, and that's the big trap. That's a mistake I think a lot of large enterprises are making. Large enterprise by design move so slow, like an iceberg, and what they did is they all ran to AI, the AI hype, the ChatGPT moment, and they started pouring massive amounts of money into the AI space, marketing, getting the word out, and it paid off in the sense that they captured a lot of the money that typically would go to companies in the Russell 2000, those small cap stocks, right? And they are, you know, in my opinion, they captured just as much money, if not more, than those small startup companies, and they're trying to act like a small company, and I don't think that that's going to pay off in the long run because when you're a Google and you go out or an SAP or an Oracle, whoever you may be, and you're going out and you're marketing that your AI solution is going to do X, Y, and Z, and users get on that solution and they come to find out that it's not what it was advertised to do, then that's a different thing than when a small startup says, "Hey, this is what we intend to do. We'll get there, eventually." And you wait for that roadmap to get completed. But yeah, that's I think the big pitfall with the large enterprise, and that's what I'm seeing in that space. And then they all partnered together. Um, that's another thing that I see that's a big pitfall, right?
They all partnered together in this big scheme, smoke and mirrors magic trick. Not if we're not
Yeah.
doing it on our own now, we're all doing it together. We're all going to trick you together.
Yeah, yeah. And I keep on seeing memes on LinkedIn of like, I'll use an example. What is SAP's strategy with AI? Customers don't get it, partners don't get it. And I see those type of comments, which, kind of leads me to question like, well, maybe that was a pitfall. So that's where I came with that conclusion, just listening in the ecosystem, what people are talking about. But I think ultimately, I think the large enterprise will get to a place where it does work for people and it is as advertised. But right now, it's a pitfall. I'm not going to put, all my chips on. We've been a giant success so far.
So I think if people listening might be thinking, okay, well, like, how is this any different than previous eras, right? When everyone moved to the cloud and said, hey, we're all moving to the cloud, it's going to work really well. You can ignore on-prem. Like, the move to the cloud is going to be seamless. It's going to work perfectly. And then, of course, nothing worked. So I mean, there have been these titanic shifts in eras in the technology for the last 30, 40 years, and they come and go. And I think every time there's this sense of like, okay, this is the hot thing, we're going to switch, we're going to make the transition, everyone should jump on board and do that. And then there's always these promises that are never delivered on. So is this any different? Do you feel like this is something has changed this time? Is this more egregious, or is this maybe more of the same?
Egregious. Well, I mean, the cloud it didn't work at first, and then it did, but you didn't have this massive tectonic shift in capital floating around, billions of dollars invested. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I think there will be this. I think for the large enterprise, I think there's going to be this massive shift away from AI. I think the tech bubble is going to pop there around AI. Already, you're seeing the stock market plummet and a lot of AI stocks. And I think that it's going to be a failure, and then it's not, right? Like the companies that stick with it will achieve what they need. But right now, there's no capitalization strategy around AI, or it's not clear. And I think that's also leading to massive confusion across uh, a lot of people. I mean, you're on ChatGPT, you go to the ChatGPT Pro plan, it's paying $200. Like a lot of people question that. And similarly, when you're their AI structure, like when you're pulling in data from their AI or their API, sorry, yeah, that's nobody knows where the business economics of these tools are going to land, and the ROI is not proven. And even like if you look at like my company, SAP, in the sales space, what we're selling is not matching, I think the expectation. So I think you will see that cloud moment where you see a dip in stocks, dip in evaluation around AI, and then yeah, you're going to have a bust and a boom cycle coming up.
Hmm. And I don't think, well, geez, forgot both of my comments here. Oh yeah. So Ben, you and I guess in full disclosure for the podcast, we're both working on the same internal AI productivity platform at SAP. And everyone here on the call is an AI enthusiast. We like the technology. We believe in it. And I see a bright future for AI. I mean, I guess it's kind of up in the air what that means for everybody else, and all our jobs and everything. But I think there is value long term for AI. But to your point, there's going to be um, a falling out. There's going to be some tumultuous waters ahead of us, right? And I don't think I'm saying anything that's shocking or groundbreaking by saying there's a lot of parallels between the AI hype bubble we're in now and the .com hype bubble, an actual .com bubble that we experienced in the late 90s. You've painted somewhat of a grim picture of the future of AI, at least in the near term, maybe not the long term. And I think, given that we are all enthusiasts and optimists for the long term vision of AI ourselves,
Mm.
what advice would you give to the three of us, and what advice would you give to other folks who um, are optimistic and enthused about AI, but need to figure out how to navigate the choppy waters that are up ahead, as we have some sort of fallout or correction around AI, and yeah, when they're looking for the strength to stick with it.
Yeah, so I think it is. Large enterprises need to lean on two roles, I think, to help bring a real vision, a real reality about, which is lean on your business architects, lean on your data engineers. And when I say data engineers, I'm being very specific. It's somebody that's a little bit like your role, Derek. Somebody that understands data and can tie data to content. And then when you wrap that with a LLM or an agent, and you can embed that knowledge within the code of an application, you have something that I think that people will want to buy. You will have something that will be exponentially more useful to more people, and you can allow people to increase their IQ in multiples, right? Just based off of that. And I think right now we need to just be clear about expectations. I think companies thought that they were going to be able to lay off massive people and replace people with AI, and I think they even jumped the gun. They did lay off people, and then they realized like, oh crap. I mean, we hear cases where they had to hire people back, and I think that that's still the vision, but I think if we're clear on our expectations that we can automate very menial tasks, take away some of those repetitive stuff, low value stuff, we can still provide value to a lot of people. And and uh, and if you can embed workflows, stuff that people do over and over and over that take a lot of time, if you can embed those workflows within LLM framework, within agent framework, I think that you're going to provide a lot of people value to your customers and your partner ecosystem. I think, and if I was like, if that same that goes for the large enterprise as it goes for someone that's a startup that's trying to sell their product, it also refers to if you're trying to sell to a large enterprise, build value for their partners, help them sell, large enterprise software tools, and you'll be fine. I think you'll make a lot of money. There's a lot of money to, so I'm not all negative, Derek. I am positive. I just think that right now the focus is on this. I see a lot of LLM wrappers, and that's it, right? But like, what's the workflow behind that? I don't know. We'll
T-
see.
tell me what you mean by LLM wrappers specifically. Can you give us some
They,
examples?
yeah, taking what ChatGPT can do and wrap it in code. And basically, you provide no extra workflow capability outside of that.
Okay, so we're just reskinning ChatGPT with a couple of custom prompts and maybe some API calls. It's just a
Yeah,
fancy chatbot.
yeah. So like, let me put all the data. Let me put all the models across my favorite companies and put that in a new UI.
Mm-hmm.
Let
Mm-hmm.
me give you the chance to rebuild a ChatGPT and put that in my tool. And I'll call it a different name with less
Mm.
functionality. Let me give you the ability to create an image or create a deck. And none of these things are really good. They're not what people expect yet, but that's where you need a business architecture to come and say, if you're going to create a deck, what would that presentation, what's the use case on the presentation you want to create? And then
Yeah.
who are you going to provide value to by creating that deck? And what types of data is going to populate that deck? And then how do you ensure that there's good formatting and good imagery? So you're getting up to this level of professionalism with your LLM instead of just putting a
Mm.
wrapper around an LLM.
I think about David, one of the guests you had on the show last week. I think I remember he talked about like the accuracy of AI in an enterprise is still pretty low. It's not very trustworthy. And it strikes me that Ben, you'd mentioned like companies jumped the gun and they like laid off a bunch of people and they're like, yeah, we're going to be able to automate all this with AI. And now not only do they don't have the people who know the processes that they need to automate. That tribal knowledge is gone. They may have stuck a wrapper on an LLM and put it in the business. And then on top of that, no one's happy with the AI right now because again, the accuracy is not there and you don't have anybody because you fired or laid off all your employees in that role or in that function. You don't have anybody to be in the loop and double checking and reinforcing what the AI is doing. So, and this is something that we see, you and I both in content creation, especially is like, okay, you can't just put like a RAG database on top of, you can't put all your content in RAG and then expect the LLM to give you answers back.
Or a
I mean,
knowledge graph.
yeah, even the best tools, Perplexity, Deep Research, Grok, if you ask them to research things online and you give it a specific template of how you want that content back, I find that it's regularly hallucinating the KPIs and variables things you didn't even ask for. And it's like, yeah, I read this article and here's the source. I can cite the source and ground the response in the documents it used. But even then, it's still going to hallucinate. So, yeah, I mean, I guess that's more of an observation. There wasn't really a question from that, but yeah, I guess on the
I
topic of
actually
jumping the gun.
I want to add some color to what you asked me because, and I want to know what you think, David, specifically. I actually think the people that have the biggest chance of success in this AI space is actually the knowledge worker that actually a lot of companies have been laying off. The knowledge worker has the best chance of success if they can find uh, good founders and co-founders, and if they realize that, hey, actually, the key to unlocking so much value to be able to sell a solution is getting a bunch of knowledge workers together and then founding a company and getting that company funded. Um, but that's not in the DNA of those knowledge workers. Those guys are process guys. They want the safety of the enterprise, but they're actually what AI needs to become successful within a SaaS company. And I don't
What do
see, I
you,
don't,
what you, and why do you think so?
yeah.
Just because they understand the process, and that's like what AI is missing, or like why do you think they're important?
So Derek and I are working on something that I think, quite frankly, is genius.
Hmm.
And really, it's this process of taking workflows, data, and matching that with content, then wrapping that in an LLM or an agent. And even at SAP, there's nobody else at SAP that can actually execute that process and
Hmm.
has the deep knowledge that, say, Derek would on that process. And if Derek went away tomorrow, I guarantee you, I could look for the next 8 years, and you still wouldn't get that process. You still wouldn't get that level of expectancy. Like what I expect to do is really like write a prompt, and I expect that tool to deliver me everything I need to go in a first meeting, for example. I'm meeting with the client in 10 minutes. I need to get account research. I need to get web research. I need to get CRM data. I need to have the right documents in front of me when they're asked for customer reference, a solution overview, a value prop. I need to understand the pain points that have been put in CRM before, and I need an LLM to kind of look at all this stuff and distill this in a way that I can consume and effectively deliver to that prospect. And there's nobody that can do this across the enterprise right now. I see a couple companies out there trying to do a good job, and they are to some extent. But that's what I mean about the knowledge worker. If you don't have someone that understand, like Derek has this map, dude, it looks like a ball of yarn.
Hmm.
And it's like I get asked to create a campaign. Here's my ball of yarn. These are all the people I got to talk to. And it's all over the place. It looks like a kid scribbled on a piece of paper with 50 different crayons. Like you got to talk to that many people: solution people, industry people, content people, um, just all over the place. It's ridiculous. And then he has to go to like 10 different repositories. Then he has to make sense of all that. That is what I mean. Like if you can have AI understand the knowledge work that he has, embed that within a code of an application, then you can get to that level of vision that you know a lot of these CEOs thought was going to happen in the boards and their funders and shareholders. And then you can, get rid of Derek. But it's not going to happen until then. And this could be related to data. This could be related to service. Just across the enterprise, you need these level of workers, and it's not just going to work to just put things in a wrapper and maybe build one, two use cases and think it's going to handle everything you thought it was going to handle.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, couple different thoughts on that from my side is that in some ways, right, like it's kind of like the calculator scenario where it's like like before you used to do math by hand or like on a piece of paper, the calculator allowed you to move faster. Then more complex calculators came out, so you could do more calculations. So I think there's some of that, like meaning like the knowledge worker, as long as he's smart enough and plays a big enough role in the enterprise, I think they're more than safe. So what you're getting rid of is, like, for example, in accounting, like the bookkeepers, for example, are in trouble right now, right? Because AI does a lot of that work pretty easily.
Yeah.
So if there's like repetitive work, all that stuff, I think is, like something that is at risk. Um, But like the knowledge worker that's doing important work for right now, if anything, I would say they're valued even higher, right? Because like they're the ones who understand how to connect all the dots. And so I was literally just talking to one of our partners here, and um, let me let me
Yeah, read what
read.
they said.
Actually, this is what I said to them, but um, I think personally, like I think AI makes or can make a mediocre person pretty good with some guidance and oversight. It can, um, it's pretty good at assisting great people at becoming even better, but it's not ready yet to replace great people. The ones who, like you mentioned, like Derek, for example, who understands how all the dots connect, and AI for now doesn't have that knowledge because, first of all, that data is private to SAP, and so like most of what cloud or ChatGPT can do is like crowdsource data online, right? I mean, I know your guys are probably building some private, uh, LLMs and whatnot, so that may change some things. But yeah, for right now, like I don't see humans being replaced anytime soon, like in the next couple of years. The only thing that could be different or that might change this a little bit is the fact that from what I hear, like whether OpenAI or some of these companies, they're releasing some things that they've tested maybe like a year ago or even 2 years ago. So actually what they're working with, the things that they want to push out in the future are like what people don't know, uh, you know, what that could do to the workforce, right? So I think that may be the scary part. It's like things we don't know that they have already like soon to be in production, right?
Mm.
So I think, and I think that's why some investors are throwing money at them because they share insights with them that we just don't know about yet. Um, some people are saying like, oh, it's all smoke and mirrors. Like WeWork did the same thing. Yeah, it's possible, but usually investors need to have enough conviction to fork over $5 billion or whatever. Like I think Sam Altman was able to raise. So when that happens, I don't know what like what could happen. I'm hearing like there's some scary things out there that like are the market is just not ready for, and what we're currently working with is just a little appetizer for what's to come. So so when someone puts it that way, yeah, so that's like this. The second part is like the scary part, right? Like which is like we don't know what's coming.
Yeah, David, I'm skeptical. I mean, like I said earlier, I'm an enthusiast. I like using AI. I really enjoyed diving deep into crypto when it first came out. I like my Bitcoin, so I'll be the first to admit I enjoy technology, and new technology is fun, right?
Mhm.
I got a 3D printer in a box that just got delivered, and I'm excited to dive into that. So by no means am I trying to poo-poo on that, but at the same time, there have been a lot of amazing revolutionary technologies that have made revolutionary claims and that they've underdelivered on. And I think if I was Sam Altman, it would be in my best interest to say, hey, well, look, GPT 4.5 may have been underwhelming, but that's just a taste. That's just the tip. When we give you
Mhm.
the full deal, you guys are going to be blown away. You're not even ready for it because, of course, like no one wants to hear Sam Altman say we pretty much blew our load. Like we can't make the models any smarter, right? So
Yeah.
I'm cautiously optimistic. And I would love to. It's like aliens, right? It's like, hey, I would love to believe. I really do. I really want to. I want to believe aliens are real, but I still have not seen concrete evidence. And yeah, so do I now? Does that mean I don't think we'll reach ASI, artificial superintelligence? By all means, I think we will in the next 100 years for sure. Do I think we'll reach it in the next 5 years? I don't know. Maybe that'd be cool if we did. But the other thing too with that is like, okay, so let's say we do hit super intelligence in the next 5 years, or true AGI, artificial general intelligence. Let's say Sam Altman and OpenAI and all these other companies, their models are really good, right? The stuff they haven't shown us is really going to blow our hair back. the problem I have with that still, and I think what Ben is getting to while he was talking, I was taking notes is, and this is the current issue I have as a knowledge worker who has a lot of specialized knowledge, is domain specific expertise. The generalized models, they're trained on general data. They're not trained on my experience. They're not trained on the nuance that I understand that comes from the experience I have, that David comes from the experience you have, that comes from the experience Ben has. They just don't have that knowledge. And when I see things like, and David, I think this one would irk you, right? Is you can have your founder, like AI founder buddy. You can create your own Steve Jobs that can talk to you and give you advice on how to run your company. If only it were that fucking easy. Like if everyone, could just create their own custom Steve Jobs GPT, Sam Altman, you combine your top 10 favorite founders to give you advice that the LLM was trained on from the first 2 pages of Google, the top 10 results. Like what is different about that other than it can just reword that stuff and give it back to you? Because that's not going to be specific enough to your situation, right? It's like if you were on in Twitter or LinkedIn and everyone's like, David, tell me how to run a startup. What advice would you give? It's like, well, I don't know enough about you specifically to give you specific advice. That's why we don't give financial advice on YouTube. That's why we don't give health advice on YouTube. There's always a disclaimer that's like, these are suggestions. It's not actual advice. Go see your doctor, go see your advisor. Right. And so having that domain specific knowledge, that's one of the gaps that I see, Ben and David, is that domain specific knowledge is a huge hurdle right now. And David, to your point earlier, you mentioned SAP has the private data, right? And big companies have all this private data that's not publicly available. That's the data right there that gives, and I don't know how you unlock that. I don't know if you ever can, but that's the data that provides domain specific expertise. And it's knowledge workers that have a lot of experience in their specific field that can bake that domain specific knowledge into processes and workflows and agents that can then become super valuable. And if you allow me one more point here, because I can tell that you really want to jump in, is I think those knowledge workers that are getting laid off, if they can codify their process with AI, which I believe now is you actually can do. I believe the technology is there, and you can build that domain specific knowledge into a workflow that is intelligent. I'm not saying an agent can have full autonomy to execute your job for you. I don't believe we're there yet. But we can use AI in conjunction with other existing technologies to take the specific best practices from the one way someone did something, right? And it could be marketing, it could be gardening, it could be creating content, it could be literally anything. There's multiple ways to skin a cat. But there are people out there in the top 10, 5, 1% who can skin that cat really, really good. And I think those are the people that you want to take their domain specific expertise and build into applications and processes that are powered by AI. And that's where the knowledge workers win. That's where the experts get their power back. And then I also think that leads to more of a fragmented marketplace where you're not going to have one AI product that does the one thing really well, just like we don't have one HR software that manages your employees and your payroll really well. There's different flavors that map to the ways different businesses run. And I see the same thing happening here, but it comes down to that domain specific expertise. I think that's going to be the magic sauce.
But so like I'll give you a couple of examples, like at Thirsty Sprout, like even like just from today or like yesterday, that I think touches on kind of like on your point. And so like one simple example, I've talked to a lot of marketing agencies and our competitors. And so in my mind, I know how much my competitors spend on like what the CAC cost is, right? Like customer acquisition cost for our business. When I Google it, it was like I wasn't getting the right answer. Like the answers were quite off. Um, oh. So yeah, when I Googled this stuff, the answers were off, and I couldn't find the information that I was looking for. And then I talked to ChatGPT, and it gave me the correct answer, right? So where is the answer coming from? Like how does ChatGPT know something that I can't quite find online? And usually, like I would only be able to get this information from someone else who really understands the industry well, has run campaigns, like is an expert in their space, Like, so where's that information coming from, right? Like, because like people usually know like what's like the customer acquisition cost, like for like a mobile app targeted at like kids or Gen Z or whatever. Like, so a lot of that information is out there. But I had like a very specific case, and so
Mm-hmm.
I was able to get accurate information that I can't really find anywhere else. So somewhere this proprietary information is leaking and like the knowledge that I thought like only few had, ChatGPT has, Google, I can't really find it. I'm guessing it's somewhere there. Maybe I'm just like not like doing the right search. So okay, that's one example where I'm like, okay, like the knowledge worker is a little bit in trouble here. But the only way I can recognize that that is true is because I've talked to those senior leaders or whatnot, and I've verified that information. So if a junior person typed it in, he would just have to accept the information as truth, and he wouldn't know whether it's true or not, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how to like how to solve like how that problem gets solved. And so in a similar
Yeah.
fashion, another example I want to point out too is like our recruiters, for example, right? Um, like some of them I would say like are kind of like junior recruiters or maybe middle level recruiters, but using ChatGPT with some guidance, we were able to have them produce not just like senior technical recruiter results, but like someone who used to be an engineer working at Amazon and equivalent results of them being able to like evaluate candidates simply from like resumes and the conversations we had on the phone. Um, so all of a sudden, like someone who has 10 years of experience is potentially getting kind of outworked by someone who's using ChatGPT plus 1 or 2 years of experience, no like engineering knowledge. Like, will they be exactly the same in their like like in whatever data they present? Like, probably like there's going to be some points of failure where like sometimes they'll you know sometimes they won't do as good of a job because like they're not that technical, so they like kind of copied and pasted something that was a little bit off. But where I'm going with this is like it can take someone who's like a C minus player or an employee, and if they know how to leverage ChatGPT, they can become like an A plus
Mm-hmm.
employee, and that's a huge difference. Like that's a big difference, right?
I'd agree.
Like that, yeah. All of a sudden, like you can go from like a very mediocre, like in our case, right? Like you can go from like a mediocre agency where if you put the one right person to oversee this like mid-level talent, you can become like a not an A plus, but like a minus agency, right? So that's like a big thing. Another final example I want to point out is like there's a the guy who runs Morning Brew, or he used to own and run Morning Brew. He said that one of his engineers or like one of his engineering friends decided to start a dev shop because he realized that when he was working with 5 other engineers, he is now able to replace them and have one other engineer plus cursor and be able to produce 2 or 3 times more output and quality of work than a team of 5, right? So all of a sudden, like the amount of people you need to hire just starts diminishing
Yeah.
because like you can do so much more with so much less, and the result is the same. So then it's like there's kind of a couple different theories that you can kind of like um, talk about, which is like, hey, like just because like someone can do a lot more with a lot less doesn't mean the market isn't going to grow, and you need to like at the end there like you're still going to need more people doing just more, right? Like it's like calculators didn't just take people's jobs away. But I don't know, I kind of I'm divided on that one because like,
So,
do we
well,
need more farmers today? Like, do we have more
yeah.
farmers or do we have less farmers? Like,
We
I
no, we
think
absolutely need more plumbers. There's a huge shortage of
no
plumbers and doctors and
farmers, not
oh,
plumbers.
farmers. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we got automated combines, but David, I think you're actually proving my point here is that it's the domain specific expertise, and I'm not saying that you have to be an expert. So there's a couple of things, but one thing you said was with guidance. So you said that we gave a junior level employee ChatGPT, and with guidance, they were able to produce results as good as the A players or an A minus player. And I think
Exactly.
that's the key there. It's with guidance, because if you just give somebody ChatGPT and you say, figure out how to do this job, and what it was, recruiters, was that the role?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
And the
so if you're like,
recruiters,
hey, learn how to be
engineers,
a recruiter from ChatGPT, it's the
Yeah.
same thing that they would find if they Googled it. If they spent, and granted, to your point, ChatGPT gave you the right answer, but you also had to know what the right answer was to look for. You had to be an expert enough to know that that was the right answer. Because I get answers all the time, and I'm like, my intern does this. She'll get answers from ChatGPT and she'll put it in the emails and content we're writing. I'm like, I can know for a fact that's not correct, but it's so convincing to her, and she doesn't know because she doesn't have that expertise, that she's like, it looks correct to me, and I'm like, unfortunately, it's not. If it gives you a number like that, it's totally wrong. And the other thing too, David, is what you kind of mentioned. Like, I'm sure you've heard the saying, a drop in the ocean raises the tides for all boats. So if AI can make a C player to an A player, I think we got to start adding new grade letters above an A to S tier and God tier and ultra tier that can elevate the A players. Because if you can take a C player who knows little to nothing about their role or their domain, and they can become an A player really quick because they have a little bit of experience, well, then think about how much of an enhancement AI then becomes to the people in the top of their class in those domains that are willing to embrace it. Because absolutely, if you have a salesperson, let's say a C-level salesperson who embraces AI, they can be an A player. But if you have an A-level salesperson who's not going to embrace AI, they're going to stay at an A player. And now the playing field has been leveled, but they also have access to AI. They can become an S tier or God tier or ultra tier, seller using AI. And so that level of domain expertise helps elevate those people. So again, now what happens when we get super intelligence and it can reason and think for itself? Well, every business is probably going to be run by a super intelligent being, because we don't need CEOs, and it's going to be way smarter than us. So then I think this whole conversation is moot. But at least in the near term, that domain specific expertise, that deep understanding of how these processes should work and what a good deliverable looks like, is what's going to set apart the businesses and the applications and the users and the employees that use AI from
Yeah,
the
yeah.
crap.
And what about like, and I feel like right now in the enterprise space, and this is something that I'll continue to talk about, is my thesis on this is simple. If you're a knowledge worker and you actually go out and build some AI that's going to be very useful to people, it is in that partner ecosystem space, because partners, unfortunately, don't get to sit at the table. They're outside the house, they're peeping toms, and they don't know the internal working of what's going on. And when one of those guys gets let go, they can go help the partner ecosystem on that knowledge around like how to sell S4 HANA. And a lot of, and I'm talking about SAP specific, but this isn't isolated or mutually exclusive to SAP. This could also be the Oracle of the world. This could be the Googles of the world, Concur. There's a lot of enterprise companies out there where they have partners to help sell their product. And we have a lot of great implementation partners. They know how to come in and plug and play, and they make a lot of money, millions of dollars doing that. But what they cannot do, and what they do not know, is they don't know the internal framework about how to talk about that solution to other customers and go out and generate that new demand, for example. And so in that case, if you're a knowledge worker, like Derek is an example, if you, and you understand how to position SAP and whatever it is that they're selling, and how to talk to, if we're talking to a customer, hey, hey David, great, I see you're trying to sell me S4, but have you ever sold to anybody in the mid market? I thought you only sell to the big boys. Do you have a customer reference of this? And if you don't know how to position that, then you're kind of, you can go and look on AI, but AI is not always going to give you that internal knowledge. And to Derek's point, like a lot of big companies are like this, where there's a lot of secretive stuff that the partners just don't get. And if you can embed workflows for these people, hey, we're going to go help you do demand gen. We're going to help you execute on your RFPs when you have to answer this big thing, instead of coming over and asking an AE every 2 minutes about what the answer to this question is. so there's a lot of workflows like that where it is a calculator thing. We are going to speed up the process. We are going to get quicker, faster, better, stronger in those areas. But eh, for me, that's the money ball right now. It's how, because AI cannot do it. It cannot take somebody you bring in the door today and say, "Hey, go ahead and use ChatGPT, and I want you to start going out and landing big contracts. I want to hire for Amazon." They're not going to be able to do that. They can get there if you bring in some experts on design thinking and that know like your level of recruiting, and you duplicate yourself and they sit with that new guy that you just hired, and here are all the tools we use, here's all the processes, so we're going to give it integrations, we're going to give it step-by-step processes. This is what a first email should look like, this is what a second email, this is what a phone call should look like, this is the videos you should be creating. By the way, you should create a microsite because nobody likes to get hammered with emails anymore, and emails dead. Those types of things, helping a partner ecosystem around that tribal knowledge SAP has, or Oracle once again, or Apple, any of these companies that have a big ecosystem, that's invaluable, and there is rivers of money to be made there. So I'm just throwing it out there for the gram, for the TikToks and for YouTube. If anybody wants to move on that, it's out there.
So how do, like one thing we were talking about, like, and where this might be leading to is like, how do you not get fired in today's market? Like what, like, because like I mentioned, like there's, like, it's true, like there's some people who are not yet replaceable by AI. They're usually like, they understand what's right and what's wrong that's coming out of AI, and it allows them to move faster. So what skills does that one person need to have, or what experience does that person need to have in order for them to keep their job? Like, what's your thoughts there?
Before Ben responds, I think there's a lot of bloat. There's a lot of bloat that's going to get cut. We're going to trim the fat regardless. And, if AI can take your job, it probably wasn't that important to begin with. And I know that's a really harsh thing to say, but I think about that a lot. And my job shouldn't exist. I'll be quite honest. My job shouldn't exist. I could automate it almost entirely without AI. So it's kind of ridiculous that I have a job in the first place. Some days I wake up and I'm like, this is, big corporate bureaucracy, red tape, and bloat at its finest. It gives people like me a job and a lot of self-importance. But
I'll give you a quote. So, and I'll say this to you guys both. It's my favorite dichotomy in the world. So, you guys, everybody knows like Industrial Revolution, CEO of Ford, he made this quote, right? And this is the assembly line idea. How come every time I hire a pair of hands, it has to come with a brain? And the idea
mm-hmm.
there is, shut up, do the process. I've thought it through. It's set. We're going to just do this over and over and automate. And then, right, Ford got old. They got fat. They sat on their hands, and they didn't innovate. And so then you got Toyota, who
Mm-hmm.
overtakes Ford as the number one leading automaker in the world. And the CEO of Toyota said, "I can make a man get up and get to the factory by 7 a.m. in the morning, but I cannot make him have a good idea." And I think so you see the dichotomy in these two worldviews. One is don't think, and the other one's like, please think about how we innovate and move forward. And I think at the enterprise space in a large company, they're, as Derek said, they're fat. They're McConnor Gregor. He's made his billions and he's out partying, eating, getting fatter, and he doesn't have to work as hard. He's not as hungry. And I think at the enterprise, there's a lot of people like that we run into. They just want the Ford model. I just want to come in. I don't want to think. You tell me what to do, and I'll just do my job over and over and over. So I think the model to help you not get fired is think about that paradigm, that worldview that the CEO of Toyota had, is like, have good ideas, work like you're in a startup, justify your job, get to know every bit of software. Like you're almost going back into that startup mode where you have to work the extra long hours. You have to make yourself impossible to replace, man, and you got to fight and claw for every inch. where it's like, well, maybe I'm just a content curator, but now I'm going to expand my kind of my horizon, my job description, and I'm going to get to know what these guys do over here, solution advisors. I'll get to know what the industry experts or engineers are doing. I want to get to know. So you understand everything that's going on around you, and then you start getting these people together around a good idea. That's the Steve Jobs thing. That's why I say my role is one of the most important at the enterprise. It's like you get everybody in the room and you start getting these ideas together and you say make it happen, and Derek's been doing this with me, and I truly do think like I we have a very small team, but we're very impactful, and we come up with really really good ideas across the board, and I think our tools going to be one of the best at SAP when it's all said and done internally, because we have the knowledge workers. We're busting our butt, we're spending long hours, and we're innovating. And I think innovation is the key to survive, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I like it. I like it. I mean, personally, like I think there's just one thing that I would say that everyone should do to keep their job is what we've just discussed. Like ChatGPT can make you a lot better, and like you can't dismiss AI today as just like a calculator, or you can, but it can make anyone who is mediocre great if you spend enough time with it and fact check it and do some, kind of like do some homework about the role that you're doing. I've seen some really bad employees. I mean, I don't know, Derek, you mentioned your job shouldn't exist, but I'm surprised some people have a job with the effort they're making, like based on things I've heard. Um, so I think like right now what's happening in the market is they're doing lots of layoffs to see how much can companies do with a lot less headcount and AI. Like they looked at what Elon Musk did with Twitter, and they're like, okay, like Twitter's still alive, it's still plugging along, and he cut 90% of people. How? Like, are they working longer hours? Are they using ChatGPT? What are they doing? And so to some extent it makes sense. Like there was a bunch of people that are, before this I was like, we need to hire because like we need someone to do this stuff. And so it's like if you think about it, it's like if I need to hire for this someone for this role, it's going to take me anywhere between one or 2 months interviewing this and that. I go back to ChatGPT. I kind of know exactly what I want. I play around with it, and I have their whole job done in minutes. Like things that used to take months can be done in minutes. Like it's not like something that's difficult, but it's something that used to take time. And now you don't, yeah, like, like whether creating like a HR handbook that's tailored to what you're doing, or a lot of that stuff, like if you need to just get something out there, like it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be better than having nothing there. And it's probably even better than hiring a junior person who was going to do that and fail at it anyway, and now you can have ChatGPT do a better job. So it puts a lot of junior people, I think, in a shitty position. It also puts a lot of people who've been kind of coasting or cruising through their jobs where they don't have like anything specific to do, and all of a sudden, like like they need to deliver results, but there's nothing to show for it there. So I think companies are cutting those people. Um, you don't want to be that person. You
I
want to
feel like I
be
feel like we're in the movie of Office, The Office,
you
where they
want
can.
to. Yeah. I would say like the only thing I would say that the safest way to keep a job right now is like attach yourself to projects that drive revenue. Like that's literally it. Like the easiest way, I think. Um, and try to bring value.
Yeah, I think about this a lot too, especially the long term future of work and the value of a worker, right? On one hand, we have, by and large, there are a lot of companies that have created roles. And again, I believe mine is one of them that I'm really good at my role, but it shouldn't exist. And it's just natural the natural byproduct of a company that's disorganized in a certain area or has a lot of bureaucracy and red tape and slow processes. You need some intermediary there, some bureaucrat essentially, or middle management to make sure that that really specific step of the process happens.
Mhm.
And yeah, could like companies downsize and get more streamlined and lean and automate some of these things? Yeah, and they don't even need AI to do it. So there's plenty of opportunity to get rid of people, and that makes the company that optimizes the company and makes them more money, and they can deliver more with less. But then also like, and you know, some of these people coast, but like maybe their job sucks. You know, there's a lot of people I don't blame for not wanting to go to work, because like you have a job, but it's a shitty job. I wouldn't want it. I wouldn't want it either. And those companies, they're like, yeah, I mean, we kind of need somebody to do this really crappy thing, and I don't blame you for not wanting to do it. But at the same time, is like I think about the natural conclusion of this is that there's just not going to be enough work, right? This kind of post labor economic system that we're headed towards, where AI and automation can do everything, and maybe that's a good thing. You know, I'm a creative. I'm a musician. I would love to sit around and play guitar and write songs all day and get some sort of UBI and like just have a chill life. Sounds kind of cool to me. You know, just get paid to create. And so you know, I don't know. Yeah, because what's the other alternative? Like a small handful of people own, you know, Google and Apple and Fang. There's only 6 companies left. They've acquired everybody. They use all AI. It's just Mark Zuckerberg running the company himself by talking to his AI assistant, and Jeff Bezos runs Amazon, and Satya Nadella runs Microsoft. And there's like 6 or 10 companies run by one guy who's never going to die because they're cyborg at this point, and they're talking to AI, and AI runs the whole company for him, and they own 99% of the wealth, and the rest of us are like have no jobs, and it's this like Ready Player One slumlord cyber city, a cyberpunk city that we live in. Yeah. Because that's where it goes. That's, you know, those are kind of the extremes, right? It's like utopian and no one has to work, and Sam Altman's just like, here you go, WorldCoin. Everyone's just gonna have UBI. Or it's like the power consolidates with so few people because they have AI and they have all the power, and like no one has a job, and then it's like bread. We're just all on the bread line forever.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting time for sure. I don't
So
know.
yeah, not to derail our conversation though.
Yeah, I don't know how much time you guys got, or if there's something else you guys want to cover, but yeah, there's some food for thought to think about, and yeah, I mean, it seems like, we can be talking about this over and over again. Like, we've been in this kind of like layoff phase for past like 3 years, and it looks like we're gonna go into it in the fourth year. So the
It's
question
coming.
is
Yeah,
like,
it's coming around.
is
Yeah.
is is hiring ever gonna pick up? And if not, then we have our answer, like meaning like more is being done with less. And so
Yeah.
where's the bottom of that? That's like the crazy part. Like, because this, there's been other cycles like this, and people are saying like, oh yeah, it's just a cycle. But is it like, because now we have
Mm.
AI, like before, like it was like, there's other problems, but like now we have AI that where one person can do a job of 4 people, right? Like just as equally good. So that rebound in hiring might be really slow. Like I feel like, because like companies can just get by with, like I mentioned, one person using cloud or ChatGPT. And if we don't have this like great growth or, prosperity in some other areas, then like how do we, like how do things grow? Like if people don't have jobs and they're not spending, but yes, like companies are keep ripping massive margins or profit margins, like unless those companies spend, like I don't know what they're gonna spend money on, but like how do we grow as a
Yeah.
world? Like I think
Yeah.
it's an interesting question.
Ben, I've been thinking about this for a while, and I would, as maybe a parting thought, I'd love to get your take on this as a thought experiment. So I kind of painted 2 pictures earlier of like a really just a really utopian world or a very dystopic scenario, but I think there's kind of a middle ground here, which is, David, to your point, like a C-level player can use AI and get the work done of like 10 people, and they can be kind of an A-level player. And what I see happening is maybe a shift away from the monolithic, centralized control and power that these massive companies have, like monopolistic control over a lot of different resources, And someone with AI can vibe code their way to a new search engine, or they could vibe code their way to a new social media app in just a couple days and create something that could catch fire and gain a lot of popularity in users really quickly. And we see these apps gaining users faster and faster and faster and faster. Like, and I imagine a world where the market could fragment again, possibly. And just like instead of Nike making all the shoes, everyone goes back to being a cobbler. You know, you have your own local shoemaker, you have your own local blacksmith, you have your own local butcher, and you have your own local software company. Like you could just, you're like, screw it, I'm not going to compete on the whole world. I'm going to use AI to create an agency or a startup that sells software, and I'm only going to do it to Denver, my city, right? I'm only going to sell to Denver. I'm just going to sell to businesses there. And me and like four other people, we're just going to focus on Denver, and it's going to be the best ERP in Denver. If you're a local Denver city, like a local Denver company, we are in your office all the time. We're doing the right things for you. It's community based and it's all homegrown. And then someone can do the Seattle version. Someone can do the Austin version. Someone can do there can be one in every city, right? And maybe that's where it heads, right? One person can do the work of 10. So why not get three people together, do the work of 30, and just have a small company and the market fragments? It could be another way it goes.
Yeah, it's going to cause. So that's one ending to the book. Choose your own ending. That's what we're doing here. So I think that's one ending, and I think it's going to spin up a lot of microeconomics. Like for example, Outreach in 2018, Outreach IO, right? Sales engagement tool. They came out. Their big thing was sequences, and they allowed you to save templates, and they allowed you to save some accounts, and you could do a couple things and call. They had a couple integrations that were pretty cool, and at the time that was great. But now you're seeing tools that are like full GTM, scoped out sequences. You can write your own sales plays right there. You can do your account planning. You
Mm-hmm.
can go to market and run and be lean. So it has a full scope. And when you start looking at these tools, you're like, who are these guys? Oh, they just got started and they built this, and it's a better tool than Outreach IO
Yeah.
by
It's like six
leaps
guys.
and bounds. And
Yeah.
so, like, I see that happening where people say, hey, I'm not going to go to this big fat whale. I'm going to go to these guys. Because of AI, we can do more with less, and we can innovate a lot more. And that's why I'm kind of saying, David, there's a whole economic, I think this big economic boom that's coming. At first, it's going to hurt everybody. They're going to get laid off, but it's going to force them to go out because of a survival mechanism and get guys together and say, hey, we actually know how this works and this and this. We know how ERP works. We know how success factors work. And I think we can recreate it and be 10 times better. And we can move 10 times faster with a 10-person company versus 122K, right? So you'll see a lot of that, a lot of remixing of old stuff that people can just do better with AI now. So I feel
It's
sorry for, yeah,
yeah, Ben, no, I love this because it's like every company that was built, no matter how big you are, how young you are, every company that was built before AI is now a dinosaur. You are archaic. You are moving at the pace of dinosaurs. There are pre-AI companies, and then there are AI native companies. And any company that's AI native now, you have the upper hand. You have the leg up on any of these companies. If you were started the day before November 20th, 2023, you launched your new ERP product. You are now a dinosaur. I'm sorry, you're 3 years old, but you are
yeah,
not an AI native company.
yeah. You have a lot of old code in there too, man, and that's the thing. That's the benefit of people that are starting after the AI stuff is you can write your code with AI in mind and your processes with AI in mind, and there's a big opportunity there, big opportunity. So, once again, I think I do think it's going to create a lot of microeconomics, and then the second thing I think is once again, if you want to help these big boys stay afloat, then you go help their partners sell better and design tools specifically for them.
Hmm.
And yeah, maybe you can. Yeah, I mean, hopefully that we see a big boom. The other thing is maybe these big companies are going to lay off too fast, get too greedy, and maybe they'll kind of kill their own economy for a while.
I think that's definitely going to happen.
I mean, they're going out and shooting all the deer, dude, and and the the ecosystem's going to be unbalanced.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I gotta. I gotta run soon here, guys. So I don't know how you guys want to wrap it up, but if there's anything else you guys
Yeah,
want
yeah. Signing off from home base. Don't get fired. Get hired. Go get
to,
retired.
that's what we're
Yeah.
gonna be talking about. It's like the whole point of the show is to focus on which jobs are safe, which jobs are disappearing, what's going to be around in 5 years, what's not going to be around in 5 years. And we're talking to experts, people on the ground, or people in the trenches, and we want to share this information with the world so they're better prepared for what's to come.
Awesome. Well,
All
well
right.
said, David. Gentlemen, I think that was a great conversation, great call. I got a lot out of it, and I hope our listeners did too. So, thank you guys.
Yeah, I had fun. That's the thing. I had fun, man, and that's a good sign of success.
Thanks for joining, everyone. We'll talk later.